In 2021, the entire world of money went completely insane. Seriously, it was a time when your Uber driver was a crypto millionaire, meme stocks were somehow worth more than actual airlines, and the government was basically firing a money cannon into the economy. They called it the everything bubble. And then, well, it popped. So today we are on a mission. We're going to dissect this whole crime scene, using the original source material as our evidence to answer one simple question. How did this even happen and who got away with the cash? This is the story of the greatest financial mania in history. If you want to see how this crazy story ends, and maybe, just maybe, learn how not to get completely wrecked in the next one, you got to smash that subscribe button and like this video. Trust me, it's going to be a wild ride. Okay, check this out. Exhibit A. This is a dispatch from Bloomberg, right from the heart of the madness back in 2021. And just listen to the wording here. The biggest financial bubble in U.S. history. They're not just talking about stocks. They're not just talking about houses. They're saying everything. Just try to imagine a casino where every single slot machine, every roulette wheel, every card table was paying out jackpots all at the exact same time. That's what was happening. It was a financial utopia. Or at least, that's what it looked like. So, here's our game plan. We've broken down our investigation into 6 distinct phases. First, we're going to uncover the birth of the bubble. Find out who the mastermind was. Then we'll step into the world of record highs, the absolute crazy peak of the heist. Next up, the pop, the exact moment it all came crashing down. We'll look at a key victim in Bitcoin's identity crisis. Then we'll zoom out to see the Fed's ripple effect, all the collateral damage. And finally, and this is the most important part, navigating the aftermath. What does all this mean for your money? Let's dive in. All right, phase 1. Every great heist has a mastermind, like a professor pulling all the strings from behind the scenes. Well, in this story, our mastermind wasn't some person in a mask. It was this building, the U.S. Federal Reserve, the Fed. They're the ones who loaded up the money cannon. So what exactly was this everything bubble they created? Well, think of it like a video game where someone finally found the infinite money cheat code. Our sources describe this totally bizarre time when it just didn't matter what you invested in. Stocks? Boom. Real estate? Boom. That weird-looking digital coin your nephew wouldn't shut up about? Yeah, to the moon. But here's the truly crazy part. The world wasn't actually getting any richer. The real economy was kind of a mess. This wasn't real growth, it was all artificial. This was the cheat code in action. And the name of this cheat code? Quantitative easing, or QE. I know, it sounds like a disease you'd get from some weird sci-fi movie, right? I asked 5 economists to explain it to me, and I honestly fell asleep 3 times. So here's the simple version. Imagine the economy is a party that's kind of dying down. The Fed is the host, and instead of just, putting on better music, they decide to hook up a fire hose of vodka to the sprinkler system. That's basically QE. They just blast the system with so much cheap money that everyone starts making these crazy decisions, like buying stocks in companies that literally don't make any money. It's a party, and hey, everyone's invited. Now, this wasn't an overnight thing. The Fed had been kind of spiking the punch bowl for years, but just look at this timeline. In 2020, when the world shut down, they didn't just turn on the fire hose. Oh no, they basically attached it to a rocket engine. The Fed, led by this guy, Jerome Powell, went full-on money printer go-bar. They created, and I'm quoting the official data here, the loosest financial conditions ever recorded. The bomb was officially built, and the fuse was lit. So the money cannon is firing on all cylinders. What happens next? Well, we enter phase 2, the world of record highs. And this is where things get absolutely nuts. This is the part of the movie where the crew is throwing cash around, buying tigers, lighting cigars with $100 bills. The sheer scale of it was mind-blowing. And here is the most twisted, messed up part of the entire story. While normal people on Main Street were losing their jobs, their businesses, Wall Street was having the party of a lifetime. It was like they were on 2 different planets. This wasn't just a party. It was a party that created a wealth gap so huge, you have to go all the way back to the roaring 1920s, right before the Great Depression, to see anything even close to it. A little ominous, right? And this quote right here, this just perfectly captures the vibe. You can't lose. It's like a slot machine that always pays out. A seasoned market expert is saying this on live television. That's how broken things were. It wasn't even investing anymore. It was a guaranteed win. The feeling was just pure, uncut, 100% invincibility. I mean, what could possibly go wrong? And just look at the scoreboard from the peak of the mania. The S&P 500, most expensive it has ever been in history. But this is my favorite part. There's literally an index of tech companies whose entire business model is to lose money. And that index went up 5-fold. It was the who cares about profits era. And of course, Bitcoin, the king of the party, smashed right through $60,000. This wasn't a bubble in one little thing. It was a bubble in everything. But you know how it goes. Every wild party has a morning after. And the bigger the party, the worse the hangover. Turns out the Fed's money cannon had a little side effect they didn't really talk about much. And it was about to bring the entire thing crashing down. Which brings us to phase 3, the pop. You see, the problem with hooking a vodka fire hose up to the sprinklers, someone's got to clean up the mess. And that mess had a name: inflation. All of a sudden, the price of everything, gas, groceries, rent, was just skyrocketing. The Fed, the very same people who started the party, realized they'd gone way too far. So they did the only thing they could. They didn't just turn off the fire hose, they slammed the emergency brakes on the entire economy. They started jacking up interest rates like there was no tomorrow. The party was officially and very brutally over. And the market's reaction? It was absolute carnage. Just look at these headlines from the middle of 2022. It's a total bloodbath. Welcome to the end of the everything bubble. The Fed pricked the everything bubble. They knew. Everybody knew. The masterminds had to pull the plug on its own heist. The bubble had officially burst. So what happens after the smoke finally clears? We now enter this really fascinating part of our investigation. Our sources actually give us a glimpse into the future. We're talking articles written in December 2025 that look back on all the wreckage. And we're going to focus on the poster child, the absolute rock star of the entire bubble, Bitcoin. Okay, so here's the whole deal with Bitcoin. The entire sales pitch, the theory, was that it was basically digital gold. It was supposed to be your shield against inflation. You know, when the government prints too much money, you buy Bitcoin. But look what actually happened. Our evidence from the future shows the perfect setup. The Fed is cutting rates, inflation is still a problem, Bitcoin should be soaring. But it's not, it's cratering. It turns out Bitcoin wasn't a shield at all. It was just another party drug. It wasn't behaving like gold. It was behaving like the most speculative, riskiest tech stock on the market. This right here, this is the moment of truth. This is the big question for the entire crypto world. If the whole digital gold story, the one that trillions of dollars were bet on, failed its very first big test, then what is Bitcoin? The data from the aftermath suggests the king is having a serious identity crisis. Was the whole thing just a story we told ourselves during the craziest party ever? And listen, Bitcoin wasn't the only one having a really bad time. The Fed turning off the money hose was like a tidal wave that just slammed into every single corner of the market. Let's take a look at the collateral damage, how this ripple effect hit pretty much everything in your portfolio. This scorecard from our 2025 sources really tells the whole story. On the left, you've got the theory, what was supposed to happen. And on the right, you have reality, what actually went down. Stocks, they survived, but man, it was a rocky ride. Gold, old reliable, did its job, a true safe haven. But look at crypto and oil. The theory just completely broke. The big takeaway here is that the Fed's cheat codes, they're not simple. They create a chaotic, totally unpredictable mess. Okay, so we've seen the heist, we've seen the party, and we've seen the crash. We've sifted through the wreckage, now for the final phase of our investigation. And honestly, it's the only part that really matters. What does all of this mean for you? How do you survive, and maybe even thrive, in a world where one building in Washington, D.C. can basically set the entire market on fire? And you know what's crazy? After all that drama, all that chaos, the answer from all our sources is surprisingly boring. And I kind of love it. The big secret? Don't be a hero. Don't try to outsmart the Fed. Trying to guess their next move is like playing chess against a supercomputer that's also somehow on fire. The winning move is just to have a long-term plan, own a little bit of everything, and just chill. That's it. That is the secret. And this quote from the legend himself, Warren Buffett, is the ultimate cheat code for surviving all the chaos. When it rains gold, put out the bucket, not the thimble. What he means is that all this panic, all this chaos the Fed creates, that's not the danger. That's the opportunity. When everyone else is running for the exits, that's your moment to get greedy. That's when things really go on sale. So that's the final question, isn't it? We know the Fed is going to keep making it rain and making it storm. They are the weather. You can't control them. So the only question left is, are you building a portfolio that's a flimsy little tent, or are you building a fortress? How will you prepare for the weather they create? Let me know down in the comments what your biggest takeaway from this whole crazy story is. Thanks for watching.